3 days before she vanished, Heather Black started seeing static in her TV, her phone, even her bathroom mirror. Not snow, not glitches, something pushing through. Then, on October 12th, she walked out of her life and into a silence so thick, even the shadows hold their breath. This isn't just a disappearance. It's a collision between our world and one we're not meant to see. Heather Black vanished on a Tuesday. Not a stormy night, not a holiday, a Tuesday. The kind of day so ordinary, you forget it the moment it's over. She left her apartment at 8:03 a.m. Her keys hung in the door, still swinging when her neighbor found them. Her coffee cup sat half full on the counter, still warm. And her phone, left charging on the nightstand. No texts, no calls, just silence. The police scoured every inch of her life. They traced her route to work, interviewed strangers, dissected her finances. But after 437 days, the case went cold. No body, no suspect, no why. But here's what the files don't say. 3 weeks before she disappeared, Heather started locking her windows, even in summer heat. She told her sister the streetlights outside her apartment flickered wrong after midnight. And on the morning she vanished, her laptop was left open to a single search. How to break a spiritual attachment. So let's ask the question everyone's too logical to voice. What if Heather didn't just leave? What if something took her? Today, we're not just retracing her steps. We're peeling back the veil. Through the eyes of a psychic who's walked the edges of this case, we'll explore the visions that defy logic, the symbols that scream in the dark, and the truth that evidence alone can't touch. Because Heather Black's story isn't just a mystery, it's a warning. Let's start with the facts. October 12th, 2017, a crisp autumn morning. Heather leaves her apartment at 8:03 a.m. Not a second earlier, not a second later. She was a creature of routine. Security cameras catch her at 8:17 a.m., buying her usual, a black coffee, 1 sugar, from the corner cafe. The barista said she smiled. Tipped $2. Seemed normal. By 8:28 a.m., she's walking east on Marlowe Street, a route she took every day. But here's where logic fractures. At 8:32 a.m., a traffic cam spots her turning left onto Cedar Avenue. Problem is, Cedar Avenue was a detour, a 20-minute detour. Her office lay right. At 8:45 a.m., her phone pings for the last time near the old Riverton train yard. Abandoned since 1992. Rusted tracks, shattered glass, a place even stray dogs avoid. And then silence. No more pings, no credit card swipes, no CCTV sightings, just a void. But the most chilling detail? When her neighbor knocked at 9:15 a.m., Heather's keys hung in the front door. Still swaying, a door she never left unlocked. Not once in 6 years. The detectives called it a clue. The psychic calls it a calling card. Facts tell us where she went, but they can't tell us why she deviated. Why her phone died precisely at 8:45. Why her keys dangled like an invitation. And why, in the weeks before she vanished, Heather's co-workers swore her office plants wilted overnight, as if the life had been sucked out of them. To understand what happened to Heather, we need to ask, what lingers in the spaces logic can't touch? The gaps between the timestamps, the shadows behind the rational explanations. Because this timeline isn't just a sequence of events, it's a trail of breadcrumbs leading straight into the dark. I shared Heather's case with a psychic, not the kind you see on TV, waving crystals and calling out to dead relatives. This person works in shadows. They consult with law enforcement on missing persons cases, the ones that bleed into the inexplicable. They refuse to go on camera. Energy this heavy leaves marks, they told me. Even talking about it, it sticks to you. But what they described over the phone, it changes everything. Heather wasn't alone that morning. There was a presence. Not a person, not an animal. A pressure, like a storm pressing against a window. Cold, patient. It had been following her for weeks, maybe longer. It started in her dreams. She'd wake up with her sheets soaked in sweat, convinced someone was standing in the corner of her room. But when she'd turn on the light, nothing. Just a faint smell of rust, like old blood. Then it seeped into her waking hours. She'd catch glimpses of it in reflections, the back of a spoon, her phone screen, the toaster. A shape always just out of focus. A shadow with weight. And the static. That wasn't a coincidence. TVs, radios, her laptop, they'd glitch whenever she walked by. Not random snow. Patterns. The psychic described it as fingers pressing through the veil. Something trying to reach her, to pull her attention. But here's what the police files won't tell you. 2 nights before she vanished, Heather called her sister at 3:18 a.m. She was whispering, "Do you hear that?" Her sister said it sounded like Heather was holding the phone away from her face. In the background, a metallic scraping, like chains being dragged across concrete. Then Heather said, "It's in the hallway." The call dropped. The psychic paused here. Their voice cracked. That wasn't the first time it spoke to her. It had been guiding her, isolating her, cutting her tether to this world. The morning she disappeared, Heather didn't leave her apartment alone. The presence was with her. It walked her to that train yard, not as a prisoner, as a passenger. And that train yard, it wasn't random. Think about what trains do. They carry souls. They connect worlds. That place wasn't just abandoned, it was thin. A door. And Heather? She didn't fall. She didn't run. She walked through it. But doors swing both ways. Whatever took her, it's still here. In the static. In the corner of your eye when you're alone at night. And it's hungry. Heather was just the beginning. The psychic described 3 symbols that clung to Heather's energy like fingerprints. Not random images. Not hallucinations. Patterns. A broken chain. A moth with closed wings. A clock frozen at 3:18. To most, these mean nothing. But in the language of the unseen, they're a scream. Let's break them down. First, the broken chain. You might think it symbolizes a breakup, a severed friendship. But the psychic was adamant. Chains bind. A broken chain means someone cut her loose. Someone she trusted. Heather's life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. A job she'd held for 8 years. A boyfriend of 3. A sister she called every Sunday. But chains aren't about love. They're about anchors. The psychic believes Heather had a tether. Someone or something that kept her grounded to this world. A parent? A mentor? The files don't say. But in the weeks before she vanished, that tether snapped. How? Maybe a betrayal. Maybe a death. Or maybe something darker. The psychic's words. She wasn't just abandoned. She was cast adrift. And when you're untethered, you become easy to take. Second, the moth with closed wings. Moths follow light. It's their nature. But a moth with closed wings? That's a warning. Closed wings mean restraint, resistance. The light it's drawn to isn't salvation, it's a trap. Heather loved hiking. Her Instagram was full of sunset photos, bonfires, street lamps glowing in the rain. Light chaser. But the psychic insists that in her final weeks, she began avoiding it. She blacked out her windows with blankets. Switched to candles instead of lamps. Told her boyfriend, the dark feels safer. Why? Because whatever followed her hid in the light. Not the warm glow of a porch bulb, but the harsh, artificial kind. Fluorescent hum. TV static. The flicker of a phone screen at 2 a.m. The moth's closed wings weren't a choice. They were a survival instinct. A plea. Don't look. Don't follow. Third, the clock stuck at 3:18. 3:18 a.m. The witching hour. But this isn't about superstition. It's about cycles. The psychic described time as a spiral, not a line. 3:18 wasn't random. It was a convergence. Here's what we know. Heather's call to her sister about the thing in the hallway happened at 3:18 a.m. Her laptop search history shows she Googled 3:18 meaning 6 times in her final week. The train yard's last operational train, Route 318, decommissioned in 1985 after a crash that killed 11 passengers. The psychic's theory? Clocks stop when a soul crosses over. 3:18 isn't a time, it's a threshold. A moment when the walls between here and there wear thin. When doors open and things walk through. But symbols aren't just clues. They're conversations. So what do these 3 say? The broken chain. I'm alone. The moth. I see the trap. The clock. I'm out of time. Together they form a message, not from the psychic, but from Heather herself. A message she left in the only way she could. Not in words, in warnings. And if the psychic is right, these symbols aren't just about her disappearance. They're a blueprint, a map to where she is, or what she became. So where does this leave us? Let's weigh the possibilities. Not just the ones that fit neatly into police reports, but the ones that claw at the edges of what we think we know. Theory 1, Heather staged her disappearance. It's the simplest answer. People vanish all the time to escape debt, abuse, or a life that suffocates them. But here's the problem. Heather left no trail. No money withdrawn. No bags packed. No deleted social media accounts. Her passport sat untouched in her bedside drawer. And the keys? Why leave them dangling in the door? If she wanted to disappear, why scream, "Look at me"? with such a glaring clue. Her sister insists Heather would never abandon her cat, Miso, who was found hiding under the bed, unfed for days. She'd sooner cut off her arm than leave Miso, she told police. Staging a disappearance takes planning, cold calculation. But Heather's last Google search was for a Thai restaurant's lunch special. Her final text? "Can you water my plants this weekend?" Sent to her neighbor. This isn't the behavior of someone running. This is the behavior of someone who expected to come home. Theory 2, she was targeted. A crime of opportunity. A stranger. A predator. But Heather's life had no cracks for darkness to slip through. No ex-lovers with grudges. No shady coworkers. Her boyfriend had an alibi. He was halfway across the country at a conference. Forensics found no signs of struggle in her apartment. No DNA. No fingerprints. Not even a stray hair. And that train yard, no tire tracks. No footprints. Just a single faint scent of lavender, Heather's perfume, lingering near the tracks. The psychic's take? This wasn't a crime. Crimes leave residue. Anger. Fear. This was clean. Surgical. Like a hand reaching into a dollhouse and plucking out a figurine. Theory 3, the unthinkable. Let's say the psychic is right. Let's say Heather's disappearance wasn't about who she was, but where she was. Not just the train yard, but the when. The psychic described a place outside time. A realm where clocks don't tick, where trains don't run, where the same second stretches into eternity. They believe Heather crossed into this place, not through death, but through a tear. A weakness in the fabric of our world. But why her? Why there? The psychic's answer chills. She wasn't the first. Just the first to not resist. They claim the train yard has always been a threshold. A place where the desperate, the lost, and the untethered slip through. In 1985, after the Route 318 train crash, 6 people vanished near those tracks in as many months. All unsolved. All forgotten. And the 318 timestamp? The psychic believes it's a marker, not just a time, but a frequency. A vibration that syncs with the other side. At 3:18 a.m., the walls are tissue paper. You could walk through without even realizing it, until you try to walk back. But here's the truth. None of these theories fit. Not fully. The staged disappearance ignores her character. The crime theory ignores the lack of evidence. The threshold theory ignores, well, everything we're taught to believe. Maybe that's the point. Maybe Heather's case isn't a puzzle to solve, but a mirror. It reflects back what we fear most. The rationalist sees a glitch in the system. The realist sees a monster in the dark. The believer sees a door they're not ready to open. So I'll leave you with this. 3 years after Heather vanished, a night guard at the Riverton train yard reported hearing a woman's laughter echoing through the fog. When he searched the tracks, he found nothing. Just a moth with closed wings and a wristwatch buried in the gravel. It was broken, frozen at 3:18. 2 weeks ago, a hiker near the Riverton train yard found something buried in the mud. A locket, engraved with the initials HB inside, a photo of Heather smiling. But here's what chills me. The chain was snapped clean in half. And the clock face on the locket's back? Frozen at 3:18. Heather's case remains open. Cold, but not forgotten. Maybe that's the point. Some disappearances aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to haunt. To remind us that for all our cameras, our algorithms, our forensics, we control nothing. The world is not a puzzle. It's a labyrinth, and some corridors lead elsewhere. Think of the stories we tell to sleep at night. Crimes have motives. People don't vanish. The dark is just the absence of light. But what if the dark isn't empty? What if it's alive? Watching, waiting, hungry. Heather's keys in the door. The static in her TV. The moth with closed wings. All of them whispers from a place where logic is a joke and the rules don't apply. The psychic warned me not to dig deeper. You'll feel it if you keep going, they said. A cold spot in your chest, like something's breathing down your neck. But here's the truth. You're feeling it right now. That prickle on your skin. That voice in your head asking, what if they're right? So I'll leave you with this. Every night at 3:18 a.m., the streetlights outside Heather's old apartment flicker. Not a power surge, not a short circuit, a pattern. 3 flickers, then 1, then 8, 318. Her neighbors say it started the day she vanished. They say if you stand under those lights too long, you'll hear it, a faint metallic scraping. Like chains, like a train that never arrives. What do you think happened to Heather Black? Was she a victim of chance? A casualty of the unknown? Or is she still out there, walking a world where time doesn't tick and doors don't close? Drop your theory below. But before you do, ask yourself, do you really want an answer? And remember, not all doors should be opened. Some are better left rusted shut.